Hello, everyone. This is Killeen and Stacey Harding bringing you another edition of Fourth Level Conversations. We're great to be with you. Al, always awesome to be with you. How are you this morning?
I'm great, Stace. It's wonderful to be with you as well. You and I just had a delightful discussion about the nature of life and the nature of our relationship and how blessed I feel, anyway, that we've awakened a real relationship later in life and after we've known of each other across the room for 30 years and really didn't know each other. We knew um, versions of who it is we thought the other person was. So I'm always grateful when you and I get a chance to get together because I feel like there's really four participants. There's you, there's me, there's the audience, and there's God. And somehow magic always seems to happen where I leave these sessions hoping that somebody watches this and gets something from it. But even if they don't, I always get so much out of it because I'm reaffirmed in my trust of life as a result of being with you doing this thing.
I could not agree more. And I think that the topic of the discussion we've decided to spend some time on this morning is partly why we've come together in our relationship and this idea and concept. We try to bring subjects to our podcast discussions that can cause intellectual thought and heartfelt consideration of the topic. And so today we wanted to talk about passion. And I think Al and I share similar passions for life, for impacting people's lives in such a positive way, and helping people find their path in this world that's beyond perhaps our ego based focus. And I think the abundant life that we all seek is beyond that. And so we're going to talk some about that. So, Al, we just had a little bit of a conversation about passion and how you thought through that and defined it. I'd love for people to hear what you just described a few moments ago to me, and then I'll just add on to that.
Fair enough, brother. Well, I had this thought the other day about passion and what is it? And I thought I was in the hot tub actually, and I thought, it's really the energy that allows a person to exponentially amplify and speed up their evolution of understanding and experiences. It really adds a whole new dimension to life when we have it. But what occurred to me is that it's more than just energy. It's actually sort of a portal into meaning, into something larger. And I believe most people go through life, and if you went along and you asked people, what are you passionate about? They'd stop and they'd think, well, spaghetti, having sex with my wife, cocker spaniels, whatever. And I think the way most of us relate to passion is it's some state that we now and then find ourselves in almost as an accident, as just something that's going on that we happen to kind of fall into rhythm with. Maybe you go to Europe for the first time and you
Mm-hmm.
discover a passion for French pastry or something. I don't know. But I think that's kind of how most people experience passion, is a periodic state of almost ecstatic, boundless energy where you forget to be afraid, you forget to be constrained, and you are really bold with deliciously enjoying the magic and the beauty of life. But I think there's a way, and I think that's a level 3 relationship with passion, ego based, essentially a passive relationship with passion. What you and I were talking about is how certainly how blessed I feel that I found a different relationship with passion 25 years ago when I was 48 to actually provoke it, induce it, create it, and that's possible. That was a breakthrough for me because who doesn't enjoy feeling passionate? And I realized that life changes if you take a proactive and even aggressive responsibility for generating passion. And there's ways to do that. And if you do them in ways that are in alignment with your level 4 values based self, they have all these other consequences they create of having you create miraculous futures that really are beyond what you dream are possible, but the irony of this proactive relationship with passion is while you have to induce it and you can enjoy it and write it and explore it for all it's worth, in my opinion anyway, you can't take credit for it. You have to realize that it's a gift from a higher source, and you've simply tapped into a portal of understanding that is otherwise going to keep you imprisoned in your story of who you think you are based on your personality, the world's impression of you, your past experiences, and you're going to stay locked into that prison of level 3 ego. So I realized I think passion is a key to optimizing our experience in life. And if we can provoke it in the right way and practice it in the right way, it opens up the kingdom of heaven within you. So that's my opening salvo. What do you think of all that? What's your response to all that?
Amazing. I was thinking as you're describing all that, passion. I was asking myself this question as you're speaking about that out. Does passion create commitment, or does commitment create our passions? So, in other words, if we're passionate about something, we become committed to it. Or is it because we're committed to something, we became passionate about it? I'm going to give you a silly example in my own life. So I grew up in South Central Kansas and kind of was taught to be a Kansas Jayhawk from the time I could speak. And I went to college there. And anyone who knows me knows I am fanatically passionate about all things Kansas Jayhawks, to the point that I schedule my life around their athletic events that I can participate in by either watching or attending. I can tell you about player profiles, all those things. And many people can do that with their sports teams, whether it's an NFL team they're supporting or their college. So we become passionate about that. And as a result of my passion for that, my commitment is deep in the sense of how I spend my time around. Now, the university probably wishes I were more committed from a donor standpoint because I'm not much there, which is kind of interesting. But there's other things, obviously. That's a silly example. But other things, our families, our faith, all those things, and what causes us. And I think some of it might be a little bit of our level 3 ego, that it creates identity for us. So I would be identified as, hey, he's a Jayhawk. I mean, I refer to myself as a Jayhawk, right? That's an identity. I'm a believer in the Christian faith. I'm a Christian. Things of that nature become an identity. And so I think in some respects that creates some understanding of why I'm passionate about something, but it also is very limiting, I think, because then I can start to define myself as something that maybe isn't really true. Or maybe I create an identity other people see me that maybe that isn't true. We were talking earlier about our previous professional careers and the identity that we created inside of that business and what drove us to be what we were. And for me, some posing along the way because of protecting a certain identity that I wanted others to have. And so I think it's somewhat limiting sometimes if we identify ourselves as our passion. Passion for me today is about purpose and having something really be of value out of my life. It's what's driving. I'm passionate to get to the end and having my life mattered to others.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about accumulation of anything at this point. And there were times where it was. And, there's stages in life where people have to work hard to just create some level of financial security for themselves or family, and they want to provide for children beyond what maybe they were provided for. So I get all that. But I think there's some danger in it because some people will get really, really good at that. And then all of a sudden, they've got more financial success than they probably ever dreamed of having. And now it's hard to see through what really matters.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that led any thoughts for you, Hal, but I'm thinking about, I think passion is awesome, but we need to be careful to some degree about what we're passionate about. Otherwise, we can lose ourselves in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Like level 3, level 4, ego or soul, I think there are levels of propriety when it comes to passion. I think Ted Bundy was passionate about raping and killing women. Okay, so he accomplished that and had the consequences accordingly. But I was sort of thinking about your sort of rhetorical exploration of the relationship of. I think there's three terms here. There's passion, there's purpose, and there's commitment.
Mhm.
As I was thinking about the commitment piece, I realized that for me anyway, commitment is actually a level 3 term. It is a term that we use to essentially make a decision to override our ego inclinations to do something over and over because we said we would. And maybe it's because the Bible tells us to, or God told me to, or my wife told me to, or I want to get healthy, or we want some goal. So we make a decision. I'm going to follow this habituated pattern. But it's an imposition of will to override our level 3 ego from its tendencies to want to do or be something. And I think that's part of it. That's fine. But I think when you awaken a sense of purpose, and for me, what it was awakening a personalized vision that was so big that I realized I would never reach it. And it was the most inspirational thought I ever had, that if I could live a life committed to embodying, to personifying a commitment, a relationship with life where my role was to somehow influence anybody I ever met to realize their fullest potential, including the man in the mirror, to create extraordinary relationships out of that fullest potential and extraordinary accomplishments out of that, Elon Musk, and to operate from a sense of integrity and honorable actions boldly and courageously, and expect some of those coming back to you, but even if they don't, you stay that. When I had that thought occur to me, and I realized that's a bigger purpose than I've ever lived for. I've always lived for sex, drugs, rock and roll, basically. Basically it was just self-indulgence. But when that came on, I realized this matters more than Al. This is more important than this life. This is such a big thought that if I can do even a part of that and be a part of that, then my life is going to transform into something of meaning wherever it ends up, whether it's in a trailer that I'm renting or it's a mansion. So once I made that commitment to break through that old story of what I thought life was versus in what I was now committed to immersing myself in, I created IMP. And shortly after that, originally it was very ham-fisted and stumbling, where I was a coach and people were going to call me and go through something. I was hoping not to get found out and screw it up and have them want their money back or any of that. But as I got comfortable in the rhythm of that, then the subtle hand of God showed up and he began leading other people to this, to where 25 years has gone by, and frankly, thousands and thousands of people, most of whom I can't even remember, that have somehow been exposed to all this stuff. And do I think of it today as though I'm committed to my personalized vision? No, I am my personalized vision. Now, I'm not a perfect expression of it. I never will be, and I will never reach what it articulates. But I think what happens with the dynamic as I see it, Stace, is that most of us live in this level 3 prison of ego. We glimpse or discover something. It may be through somebody we meet. It may be a book. It may be a movie. It may be a teacher, where we get a bigger glimpse of what's outside this bubble of my paradigm of reality. And it's so noble and so universal in its value that we pierce the veil of this prison of our ego and we begin to look at that sun. It's like we've been in a dark room and we open the windows and there's the sun. And if we are so inspired by that purpose that we discover, that we generate passion, it breaks through the wall of this level 3 ego and puts us out in the sun. Once you're out in the sun, you no longer need to have a commitment to get out in the sun. You are the sun. And so the ironic art to life for me is to realize how life can be trusted, and to realize my worth. I had to give up the idea that there even was an alkaline and that I mattered. I just sort of naturally evolved into this rhythm of being a personification of that personalized vision to the best I could be. And I let go of the story of needing to control what I said and who I said it to and all that in favor of the flow of God. And it's brought me things I never imagined I would have materially and relationally and all that. But it's given me a different relationship with life where I'm not at this moment at the least worried about dying, because I don't think we die. I think we physically go away, but I don't think the consciousness dies. And that's a place that was theoretic for me 25 years ago. And now it's experiential, it's real. So anybody who's watching this podcast, I hope some of that makes sense, that I think this is even what was meant in the Bible, that you must die to yourself. I think what's being talked about is you have to escape the prison of ego and its requirements of you indulging the ego story, which is an old script of who it is you always thought you were based on what other people told you should be or you were or your experiences. You have to pierce the veil of that and discover a great personal purpose that's bigger than that story. And when you do, it will automatically generate passion that automatically will create miracles. And when those miracles happen, and once you're in the sun, you no longer even see it as something separate from yourself. I don't, while I talk to God as something outside of me, I don't really, in my ultimate belief system of God, believe it is a subject object thing. I think God is everything, and therefore, even within that which beseeches him and holds himself out as something separate. So that babbling articulation, as inadequate as that probably is to understand, is my relationship with passion. It is the energy to break through, to understand not only who you are or are not, but why you are here in the first place. And with it, all things are possible. What do you think, brother?
So many things came to mind as you were describing all of that, Al. And you talked about extraordinary relationships. You know, it's part of your personal life vision. You talked about you aren't aspiring to your personal life vision; you are it. And that comes back to perhaps our previous discussion about our identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have identified, I think, a point that's really important for people to hear, and that is this personal life vision. And I think people go through life without really contemplating, what am I all about? What do I want my experience in this world to be, the people I love to experience in this world, and the world to experience? And do I believe in general, do I believe the world actually is good and that life is good? And I think without that guiding light, so to speak, of a personal life vision, I used to call it just not, this is very different. I used to call it what's your life's purpose statement. This is way beyond that, because a life purpose statement is, this is what my value is and what I stand for. This is my view of what I want the world to be and my role in the world. And I was converting that idea also to businesses and passion. So I think CEOs and leaders typically will write this vision statement for the company and state what their values are. And then they expect the 1,000 employees under them to be passionate about it.
Right.
And so I think for those business leaders that may be watching, there's a whole process to where you garner the opportunity for your team to own that vision statement by helping create it through the foundation of the leader's personal life vision, coupled with all the employees' personal life visions.
Right. Right.
Al has developed a whole program for leaders to be able to bring that together. And that's where we begin to see transformational change in organizations. I doubt there's a business leader when they're alone at night and they're thinking about their business and they get past the financials and they stop thinking about the intrinsic value of the organization. They are thinking, when I'm all done with this, will this have had a change in the world that was for the good? And all businesses do that in some respects if they're employing other people and they're serving customers and clients and patients and whatever it may be. But there's something richer and deeper for a business leader if they'll go to that next level. If they can step out of the world definition of success and take it to the next level of transformation through this process of personal life visions for folks inside the organization coming together to build the corporate life vision, so to speak. And I think it's a very important thing if we want to continue to mature and transform in a competitive world. And it can be your differentiator in your competitive market, for one thing. I wanted to come back. I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but I want to come back to the personal passion and life vision. One of the things that I think we should all be very cautious about is what we're feeding into our eyes and our ears. What are we watching on television? What are we watching on social media? Because everything that's being pressed upon us there is ego-based. It's self-centric. It's not for the greater good. We call the World War II season of people the greatest generation because of the personal sacrifices that they made collectively to save the world from our nation. And we've lost that, I think, in the advancement of the technology with social media and so forth. And I think we've got to be very, very careful about that. And so if we're not careful, we'll have other people driving our passion that have no idea who we are as people. And we don't even know it's happening. So I don't know how we combat that other than selecting the right thing that you read and you learn about, that whether you start your day in prayer, or meditation, or reading, or exercise and wellness, whatever it may be. But I think we've got to be careful. Otherwise, our passions start to get defined for us, even when we really didn't want it. That was kind of jumbled, Al. Yours was
No,
far
that
more.
makes a lot of sense. As you were speaking, I was thinking about a client of mine that went down to Mexico to go through an hallucinogenic retreat therapeutically. And he was with a shaman, a Central American medicine woman. And she told him something he told me that I really liked a lot. She said, everything you create inside yourself or you take in from the outside is medicine.
Mm.
And like all medicine, it can kill you or it can heal you. So the key to life is to be responsible for the medicine you are taking in and the medicine you are creating in your mind. I find that beautifully, metaphorically helpful because
Great.
I realized I went through a day here not too long ago where I was really kind of angry and depressed, running dark tapes through my head all day over politics
Mm.
because there's all this stuff going on right now with the election and people feel like they feel. And I happen to see some political signs for the candidate I don't agree with and I think is dangerous. And I won't say which one, so those of you out there that are on the other side of the aisle can assume I'm talking about, my side of the aisle. But what I realized was it really wasn't about who wins or loses this election. That's going to be what's going to be. It's going to go where it's going to go. But I lost a day of my life, lost in anger, in indignation, in how can they be so stupid, which is everybody right now. And I think that's induced by the bad medicine of media that's busy fomenting this divisiveness. And really, if people didn't tell you whether they liked Trump or Harris or where they stand, and you just meet them at the grocery store, man, 99% of people are kind, sweet people that could be members of your family if you had a functional family. I didn't happen to have one, but you know, uh,
Yeah.
people are people, and we have, we're like us and the chimpanzees, where we have 99.4% of the same DNA or something. That's really how people are when it comes to their way of operating in life. It's that 0.6, it's 0.6% of ego that ends up creating medicine and stories of why I mean, Stacey's either part of my tribe or he's the enemy. And that's what wars are about. That's what rape is about. That's what child abuse is. That's what all of it's about. So if we can just move past feeding ourselves bad medicine and coming back to passion and purpose, it's really good medicine. It's like a universal medicine that heals whatever's ailing you. You think you feel bad over mistakes you've made in your past life and you don't have a right to be happy? Put that on the shelf and just try on an inspired purpose of what you are committing initially and then becoming to be in the world for other people without worrying about what they think about you or how it's going to benefit you. Mm-hmm. If you can decide to be your purpose, and that purpose is noble, and I believe it's most easily accessed through one of the values. If you just watch this podcast, if you've stayed with us this long, and try this for one day, the next 24 hours, try to be an embodiment of kindness, just kindness. And starting with kindness to yourself. Let go of the dark stories, the dark tapes, the guilt trips, the evidence you have in the corner of your secret sessions you're embarrassed by. Let go of all that. Let go of your stories about the strangers in the grocery store or driving on the street, and hold yourself as a personification of kindness. And just in your thoughts, your intentions, and your actions, choose kindness. Just practice that for a day and see what happens. That 24 hours will change your life, because you'll realize we are all, as personalities in the world, it's like we have a glassy lake that is pristine and pure with not a single wave. And when we have thoughts, we drop them into that lake like a pebble dropping in the pond that has ripples. So our thoughts, our intentions, our actions create ripples. And when you create the ripple, in this case of kindness, it bounces off the banks of other people's egos and comes back to us, as well as begins to dissolve those banks that eventually has us all merge into being the lake rather than individual drops within the lake that we need to be leery of the other drops as to whether they're part of us or not. We're all part of each other. And the darkness in the world exists when we forget that out of our level 3 ego. And purpose and passion are a way to remember you are the ocean along with everybody else. So treat others as you would wish to be treated is more than a religious declaration of what you should be. It's a statement of great wisdom, because at some level you are them and they are you. And passion and purpose can give you an access to that place. I'll let you close this out here, brother. What do you think of all that?
I was going to say, if you just listen to what Al said, you just took in some great medicine. And so contemplate that, because I sure did. And I think about, as we do close up, passion and compassion go hand in hand. Kindness is part of that. If you're ever feeling down, lonely, whatever, one of the greatest advice people have is go do something for somebody else.
Yeah.
Because the minute we take our eyes off of ourselves, we begin to experience the beauty of life through others. And so today, I'm going to do that. I know Al always does, and I hope that you all will too. But we love that you watch these. If you do, it is good medicine for Al and I. We think it's good medicine for the world, for whoever it might touch. Yeah. And we're always here to help if we can be helpful to you. We appreciate you being here. Al, love being with you, brother. Love you.
Love you. Love all of you for watching this. And Stacey's right. Feed yourself good medicine by feeding the world good medicine. Be a force for good. Then let it go where it goes. You have nothing to worry about. Blessings.
Just perfect. Have a great day, everybody.
You too.